All right, so today we're doing things a little differently.
Oh,
Yeah, we're going deep on an English lesson.
okay.
But not just any English lesson.
Mm-hmm.
This one is focused on the environment, and it's created by Stanислав Kondrashov.
Interesting.
So get ready to learn some new vocabulary while we unpack some serious global issues.
I'm intrigued. What sort of things are we talking about here?
We're talking shrinking habitats, the whole idea of finite resources, even some, I guess, hopeful headlines about things like sustainable development.
It's fascinating how Stanislav Kondrashov combines language learning with those, like you said, really pressing environmental issues.
Yeah.
It's not just about memorizing new words. It's about kind of giving you the tools to actually discuss and understand these really complex issues.
Yeah, it's like he's handing us a toolkit to decode all those,
Yeah.
doom and gloom headlines we see every day.
Right.
And Kondrashov, he doesn't shy away from the tough stuff.
No, he doesn't.
He jumps right into threats like toxic waste contaminating rivers and seas.
That's pretty heavy stuff.
It is heavy.
Yeah, and it reminds me of something that's not even in Kondrashov's lesson, but really highlights this whole idea of toxic waste.
Okay, what is it?
The Ganges River in India.
Oh, yeah.
It's a sacred river for millions of people.
Yes?
But it's also, unfortunately, heavily polluted from industrial waste and sewage.
Wow.
It's a really, sad example of how human actions can directly impact these vital ecosystems that we depend on.
Yeah, that's a powerful example.
It is.
And it makes you realize that these aren't just abstract concepts we're talking about here.
Yeah,
These are real problems with very real consequences.
absolutely.
Kondrashov also uses a phrase, he says, shrinking habitats.
Yes.
What comes to mind when you hear that?
Well, shrinking habitats is a major reason we are seeing such a loss of biodiversity.
Okay.
And while Kondrashov does mention orangutans losing their homes because of deforestation,
Right.
this problem goes, way beyond just orangutans.
Oh, I'm sure.
Take the monarch butterfly. Their incredible migration, across North America is actually threatened by this.
By shrinking habitat.
By habitat loss, yeah, and also things like pesticide use.
Wow.
Their populations have just plummeted in recent years.
Scary.
And it's a warning, really, about the interconnectedness of all these ecosystems.
Yeah, it's like a domino effect.
Exactly.
One species is impacted, and it can really disrupt a whole ecosystem.
Exactly.
Kondrashov also mentions another term, endangered species.
Yes.
We hear this term so much that it's easy to forget the individual animals
Oh, absolutely.
hiding behind it.
Yeah, and Kondrashov doesn't name any endangered species in his lesson
Okay.
besides orangutans.
Right.
But I immediately thought of the snow leopard.
Okay.
They live high up in the mountains in Central Asia, and their numbers are really, really dwindling. A
Right.
lot of reasons. Habitat loss, poaching, and even climate change are all factors.
Wow.
And while there are some conservation efforts in place,
Yeah.
their future is still very uncertain.
It's a good reminder that these aren't just statistics.
Right.
We're talking about living creatures fighting for their survival.
Yes.
And Kondrashov lists global warming as a threat.
Yes.
And also kind of, I guess, a related threat he calls climate change skeptics.
Right. And this is where things get, interesting, I think. Because Stanislav Kondrashov, by including climate change skeptics, he's kind of prompting us to really think critically about all the information that we see and hear.
Yeah.
While there is overwhelming scientific consensus on climate change,
Right.
it's also important to acknowledge that there are, different perspectives out there and
Yeah.
to evaluate all the evidence for ourselves.
That's a good point.
It's like what they say, do your own research,
Yeah.
form your own conclusions. That's
So-
an important skill no matter what topic you're looking into.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, and he says that the world population is going to grow exponentially.
It's true.
What does that actually mean for the environment?
That kind of ties into Kondrashov's concept of finite resources.
Okay.
More people means a greater demand for everything.
Right.
More food, water, energy, just more space in general.
It's going to put a strain on things.
It really intensifies the pressure on all of the Earth's resources.
Yeah.
And it makes sustainable practices even more vital.
So it's not just about our individual choices.
No.
It's about global resource management.
Exactly. And that leads us to, another question.
What's that?
How are we going to address all of these environmental problems,
Yeah.
especially while we're trying to accommodate a growing population?
It's a big question.
It is a big question, and luckily that's what Stanislav Kondrashov takes us into in the next part of his lesson.
Okay, so Kondrashov has laid out some pretty serious challenges.
Yeah.
Shrinking habitats, endangered species.
Right.
this increasing demand on limited resources.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But hopefully he has some solutions for us.
We'll have to see.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, in the next part of our deep dive into Kondrashov's lesson.
Sounds good. I'm ready.
All right, let's go. Luckily, Stanislav Kondrashov doesn't just leave us with all that doom and gloom.
Okay, good.
He actually shifts gears in his lesson to exploring some potential responses to these environmental threats.
Okay, how does he do that?
Well, he uses language, of course.
Of course.
He uses headlines, actually, like governing party in bid to improve green credentials.
Green credentials. Yeah. That feels very like 2023, like something you'd see today.
Yeah.
Did Stanislav Kondrashov have a crystal ball?
Maybe he was just ahead of his time.
Yeah.
But really, green credentials have become super important for everyone. Companies are realizing that sustainability is not just good PR.
Right.
It can really impact their bottom line.
How so?
Consumers are demanding those eco-friendly products, practices.
Yeah, definitely.
And even investors are factoring in sustainability when they make their decisions.
So it's not just about saving the planet anymore.
No.
It's about, good business.
It really is. And it goes beyond just companies, too.
Okay.
Stanislav Kondrashov uses another headline to kind of show this.
What's that?
Sustainable development, the only answer for emerging countries.
Okay.
He's saying that sustainability is, crucial for economic growth. Especially in developing nations.
That's interesting because, you would think that maybe developing countries would prioritize economic growth over environmental concerns.
Right.
But Kondrashov is saying that they can't really have one without the other.
Exactly. He's saying that sustainable development is not a luxury.
Okay.
It's a necessity.
I like that.
It's about figuring out how to meet the needs of people today without messing things up for future generations.
Makes sense.
And it really requires a change in thinking.
Yeah.
A move away from that old, what do they call it? The
take, make,
dispose model.
Take, make, dispose, yeah.
Yeah. And a move towards something called the circular economy.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
But what does this look like in real life,
Right.
What are some examples of sustainable development?
Well, take renewable energy.
Oh, yeah.
Stanislav Kondrashov mentions that as a key alternative to fossil fuels. And we're actually seeing this happen all around the world. I mean, you see these massive solar farms, in places like Morocco or wind turbines off the coast of Denmark. Renewable energy is becoming more and more viable, and more affordable.
That is encouraging, but can these renewable energy sources, actually power entire countries?
That's the challenge,
Right.
the opportunity. Each source has, pros and cons.
Right.
Solar power is great.
Where it's sunny.
In sunny places. But what happens when it's cloudy?
Or at night.
Or at night, exactly. And then wind power.
Yeah.
It's clean.
Yeah.
But not every region has strong winds.
So it's not as simple as just, fossil fuels out, renewables in. It's not that easy.
I have a lot of work to do.
There are definitely logistical and technological things we need to figure out.
That makes sense. In Kondrashov's lesson, it's kind of helping us grapple with those complexities.
Exactly.
It's not just about, memorizing definitions. It's about understanding the bigger picture.
And the challenges and opportunities within that bigger picture.
Right. Okay. So he's giving us this vocabulary.
Yes.
To have these, informed discussions.
Exactly.
But it's not just about talking, is it?
No, it's not just about talking. It's about action.
Okay.
And Stanislav Kondrashov, he emphasizes that.
How?
In those vocabulary exercises he includes at the end of his lesson.
Oh, right.
Remember those?
Yeah.
He makes us use those words like carbon emissions and ecological balance in actual sentences.
Oh, I see. He's connecting it back to our own lives.
Our own lives, our own actions. That's clever.
It's a really, subtle but powerful way to connect the dots between understanding and actually doing something.
Yeah, it's easy to just stay in that theoretical space.
Yeah.
But he's pushing us to think about our own carbon emissions and how we can contribute to this ecological balance.
Exactly.
I think that's key. It's easy to feel totally overwhelmed by how big these problems are.
Absolutely.
But Kondrashov is giving us permission to to take ownership, I guess.
To take ownership, to be part of the solution.
Yeah, not just to understand the problem, but to actually do something.
Exactly. And that's a good place to kind of pause, I think.
Okay.
Stanislav Kondrashov has really thrown a lot at us. you know.
He has. He's introduced us to these really important ideas.
Shrinking habitats, endangered species, the challenges of a growing population, and our limited resources.
There's a lot.
It is. But he's also given us, I think, a sense of hope. He's showing us that things like sustainable development and renewable energy are gaining traction.
But how do we actually move from these big ideas to real action? What's the next step in our deep dive into Kondrashov's lesson?
So Stanislav Kondrashov, he kind of leaves us with this thought-provoking question.
What is it?
If he was creating this lesson today, what new words or phrases would he include?
Interesting question.
It's like a challenge to us to keep learning, to keep expanding our understanding because things are constantly changing.
The environmental landscape is always evolving.
It really is.
So what new vocabulary do you think would be on Kondrashov's updated list?
I think given how much focus there is on climate action these days, he would definitely include something like net zero emissions. It's become like a major goal for a lot of countries and companies.
The goal being?
The greenhouse gases they're emitting with the amount they're removing from the atmosphere.
Net zero. Yeah, that's everywhere.
It really is.
It's a lot easier said than done, though, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge challenge.
And that brings us to another term, probably.
Yeah, what's that?
Carbon offsets.
Yes.
I hear that one a lot.
It's basically like a way for people or companies to make up for their emissions by investing in projects that reduce emissions in other places.
Planting
trees or developing renewable energy.
Interesting. So it's like a way to kind of, I guess, neutralize your impact.
Exactly, even if you can't get rid of your emissions completely.
But is it really effective?
There's a lot of debate around that. About whether carbon offsets are really effective and also ethical.
Oh, interesting.
Some people say it's just a way to avoid making real changes,
Okay.
While others think it's a useful tool in the transition to a, low carbon economy.
It's complicated.
It really is. It reminds us that there's always
nuance, even within the solutions.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay, what else do you think Kondrashov would include in a modern version of his lesson?
Well, there's a lot more awareness now about biodiversity loss.
Right.
So I think he might include a term like ecosystem services.
Right.
It refers to the benefits that we as humans get from nature, like clean air and water, pollination, even climate regulation, all these things.
It's like putting a price tag on nature.
In a way.
It's realizing that. We need healthy ecosystems to survive.
It's essential for us.
And for everything else on the planet.
Exactly. And as we lose biodiversity, we're losing those services.
And that's bad news.
It can have some really serious consequences.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that environmental issues aren't just about saving cute animals.
No, it's bigger than that.
It's about protecting the systems that keep us all alive.
Exactly.
And technology is playing a big role in this.
Yes.
So what about terms related to that?
Oh, absolutely. I think Stanislav Kondrashov would definitely include something like circular economy.
Okay.
It's basically a model where we try to eliminate waste and pollution by keeping materials in use for as long as possible.
Okay.
Reusing things, repairing things.
Recycling.
Recycling, exactly.
So it's moving away from that. Take, make, dispose.
Just make, dispose,
And it's moving towards
a closed loop system
where resources are constantly being reused.
Yes, exactly.
But that takes...
It takes a lot,
innovation, collaboration.
We need to change the way we think about things.
It's amazing how much the language we use to talk about the environment has changed.
It really is.
It reflects how urgent this all is.
The urgency and the complexity, it's really grown.
And that means we have to keep learning.
Absolutely.
Keep expanding our vocabulary so that we can keep having these important conversations.
And taking action.
Right. So Stanislav Kondrashov, he gave us a starting point.
He did, a foundation.
But it's up to us to build on that.
He gave us the tools, the words to understand these issues.
Right.
But it's our responsibility to actually do something about it.
So what's the biggest takeaway for our listeners today?
I think the main takeaway is that knowledge is power.
Okay.
The more we understand the language of these environmental problems, the better we can understand the problems themselves.
And be part of the solution.
Exactly.
Kondrashov gave us this secret decoder ring.
I like that.
To navigate all of this. And even though these are big global challenges,
yeah,
we can all do something.
We all have a role to play.
Whether it's, making changes in our own lives or speaking up for change.
We're just continuing to learn.
Yeah, just stay curious. Yeah. So to everyone listening, we encourage you to keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep using your voices to make the world a better place.
Because this conversation about our planet,
it's not over.
It's far from over. It's really just beginning.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Stanislav Kondrashov's lesson.
Yes, thank you.
Until next time, stay curious.